Talking about money, more state budget cuts are coming, and according to LAUSD, that means more cuts are coming to our schools. The school superintendent said today teachers must either take cuts and furloughs or face layoffs.
This is real, and I just think that we have to make payroll. I don't think any of us want the district to be taken over, to go into receivership.
Well, as you can imagine, teachers are not pleased. They held rallies today to let people know about it. Here's the reality. If there's no money, there's no money. The fire department's been hit. The police department's been hit. Don't the teachers have to deal with this as well, David?
Yeah, they do. I mean, we all have to take our lumps in this. Times are tough, and it does suck. And do I want to see cuts in our schools? No. But if we're talking about furlough days to prevent layoffs, I tend to think this is a good idea. I do maintain, however, that the teachers do have one good point that they've been making in all of this, and that is they like a little more transparency. And I think that's a good thing. I'd like to know where the district is spending our money. It's my money. It's your money. And I'd like it to go for teaching-related things. So I think that as long as we're asking teachers to make sacrifices in their paychecks and take furlough days and face the specter of layoffs, I do think it's fair to ask the administration to show us exactly where our money is really going.
Charlotte?
I think it's extremely wasteful, public education. I mean, I go back to the fact that we spend $10,000 to $11,000 per child per year in the state of California. And yet private schools, my daughter went to a private school, middle school, $4,000 a year, $5,000 a year in high school, not subsidized by any religious institution. If they can do it, I don't see why the public schools can't. And I understand that months ago, LAUSD fired 5,000 teachers and employees, and then they immediately hired them back. And they hired them back with surplus money that we got from the federal government. And I have a problem with spending surplus money in a way, stimulus money, not surplus money, stimulus money in a way that's not stimulating the economy enough. So to me, that should be spent on infrastructure. That should be spent on, for example, the levees that we have that are going to break up in Northern California. And when they do break, it's going to make Katrina look like a fun day at the water park. It's going to be a disaster. So we should be spending our money in ways that are going to create additional jobs. And we need to cut down the payroll, the bloated payroll that we have in the state of California of public employees. They need to go into the private sector. Some of these people need to.
Yeah, I got to ask you, Charlotte, I want to know what private school costs $4,000 or $5,000 a year. That's what I want to know. Where do you find those schools in Southern California?
No, there really are. There are in the San Fernando Valley. There are plenty of schools. There really are.
All right, let's move on. Talking about money and education. Here's an idea that they're thinking about in another state. Would this fly here? The mayor of Pittsburgh says, I'm going to impose a 1% tax on state college tuition. So if you go to a public school, for example, here in the state of California, you'd be required to pay 1% per semester. Cal State schools, $4,000 a year. That means an additional $40. UC schools are $8,000 a year, which means an additional $80. It's not much more for the kids, and really, it doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. What do you think, Charlotte?
I agree with you. I'm an expert on colleges and universities because I've attended 9 different ones, and I'm currently taking a class at the community college, and I pay $62 for this class per semester. So that tax would amount to 62 cents. You get amazing perks at the schools. For example, for health care, most people don't know this. I pay $11 for basic health care for 4 months because I go to a community college. Even the universities are not that expensive. For 18 units, you're paying $133 per unit at Cal State Northridge or one of the state schools. And at the University of California, you're paying about $398 a unit for 18 units of classes per semester. So to me, I'm fine with it. I normally don't support taxes, but in this case, I think education is pretty cheap, and I think that people don't appreciate things a lot of times unless they pay for it.
David?
Well, I think Charlotte has a point. However, here's my issue. I think this is bad precedent to start charging college kids taxes for the privilege of going to school. I just think that's a wrong-headed approach to what we need to do in America, make college more expensive. The reality is we need to encourage people to go to school. We need to make it as cheap as possible. And we need to realize this is an investment in our future. College-educated people make more money, pay more in taxes. So the reality is it's penny wise and a pound foolish. I think it's a terrible idea.
The thing you mentioned, David, I think that's the concern everybody would have. Why are we having our kids pay more money for their education, especially in the state of California, where you want them to stay in state. On the other hand, $40, $80 a year, how much can that hurt?
Well, I know, and the thing is, it is a very minuscule amount of money, but I'm worried about the precedent here. We're going to start slapping a tax for this, that. Oh, and well, here's a little tax for this, a little tax for that, a little tax for that. I just think it's bad precedent to start doing it at all.
Okay. David, Charlotte, good job. And Charlotte, I do want to bring up one point, and it surprised me somewhat. You said you had been to 9 schools. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you were expelled from 8 different universities before.
I was a bad girl.
Well, you were a good girl tonight.
Overeducated.
David, good job. Charlotte, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks.
Okay.